morning, everybody. I'm on my way to meet the rest of the team. We're working on the presentation we have to do. So I invite you to stay with me if you want to get all the information and all the tips to make the best presentation ever. Come with me. Hello guys, how are you?
Hi, Ginny.
Good morning.
Hello Flor, how are you?
Hi, Ginny. Good.
Well, have you been able to work on something, guys?
Yeah, each of us have divided part of the content and we have been reviewing, so we have it almost ready.
Yeah.
Okay, should I start with the first part?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. We have to define our objective of the presentation. This is the outcome that we want to share. For example, what exactly do we want our audience to know, believe, or do according to what we're going to share? For example, do we want to demonstrate how something works? Do we want to explain a strategy? Do we want to show a new process? Or do we want them to be updated on a specific topic? The objective will drive the development of our presentation.
But Agus, what do we have to define?
Well, that's a good question, Flor. We have to define what to say and how to say it. This will structure the presentation. Another thing to have to take into consideration is we're trying to get our audience to do or think something particular, and for that purpose we have to connect with them. How do we do that? We need to gain their trust and persuade them to adopt our ideas. That can be done either rationally, emotionally, or physically. For example, if we want to do it rationally, we have to do it through facts and information. If we want to do it emotionally, we need to do it through the stories we share and values. And if we want to do it physically, we need to do it through sight and sound. This is key on how to frame our message and shape our presentation. We have to think about who our listeners will be. How well informed are they about our topic? What do they need to know about it? What they do already know about it? What do they expect from our presentation? And how do they feel about the topic and about us as presenters? Remember, we want our audience to change their behavioral beliefs on some specific way, and people find it hard to change. It's up to them to embrace or reject the ideas we're sharing.
Okay. I have a question. What about the settings?
Well, that's a good question, Facu. We have to think about two different topics. The first thing is timing. How much time do we have to present? And when are we presenting? Is it going to be in the morning or after lunch? And the other thing is it going to be physical or remote? Is it going to be in person or virtually? What control do we have of the environment?
Once we defined our objective, we need to crystallize our message.
What do you mean by that?
The big presentations convey one big idea that matters to the audience. So, how can we make our message crystal clear? I've been doing some research and I found that we can begin by outlining our big idea. We have to express our big idea in a complete sentence that speaks to our audience concerns. We should also organize our thoughts. We need to figure out how to support our case with evidence. Think about what facts and information should we use. Where in a presentation should we provide each piece of evidence? Let's keep in mind that opinions have far less impact on our audience than evidence. Then we need to identify the emotional underpinnings of our message. We can do this by explaining to ourselves why the audience should care about our message. What might we say in different sections of our presentations to appeal to our listeners' emotions? In addition to that, we have to identify pivotal moments in our presentation. At what point will it be important to get our audience members' participations, reactions, agreements, or buy-ins? Once we identified all these items, we have to research supporting materials. Supporting materials can include arguments, information, facts, examples, statistics, and other content that we'll provide to back up our big idea. Supporting materials can come from a number of different sources. Can you guys think of any of these?
For example, could it be other presentations or books?
Oh yeah, I'll write that down.
Yeah, research reports or surveys.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Also, blog spots or industry studies.
yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys.
So once we have defined the objective and crystallized the message, we will need to focus on craft the content. I've been working on this section of the material and I have prepared some slides that I would like to share with you right now.
Right.
But before we start, I would like to highlight that it will be the most important thing because here we will have to make the difference in our presentation. Why crafting the content matters? Because it basically will help us to structure the content of our speech strategically. And it will give us the possibility to grab and keep the audience attention and also to inspire them to take any action. So usually when we start preparing a material or a speech for a presentation, we have a lot of information, we have books, we have statistics, we have graphs, and we will need to organize all that information in a way that could be easier to understand. In that way we will be able to hook the audience attention, but we will need to be careful because during the process of the presentation we can find some resistance from the audience. Maybe they already know methods in order to process the information, or they have some knowledge about the topic that we are presenting. So we need to be prepared and have something, have a strategy or something prepared in advance in order to deal with that possible situations and continue with the presentation normally. Two important things that Harvard mentions in order to prepare the strategy. It says that we should organize the content in a way that taps into our listeners' emotions. It means that we need to get into their minds in order to make them want to perform an action after we finish with the presentation. And we also should avoid trying to cover too much ground during the speech. This means that we don't want to overwhelm the audience with too much information or details. We just need to go to the point and explain what is necessary. The second slide that I have prepared speaks about the opening, that is basically the introduction. It says that the opening, an effective opening, is one that can hook the audience attention. In order to do that, we can use different things. For example, we can present a personal story. That is something that would be familiar for the audience, and it will maybe simplify the way to understand the message that we are trying to deliver. We can use facts in order to reinforce the message that we are presenting, and we can also use hypothetical scenarios. Maybe we can present different situations with a problem and ask the audience to present or to suggest any possible solution. Okay, so the last slide talks about the body of the presentation. This is the main part and the most important. We will need to think careful about how we will structure the body. We will have to consider two things: the situation or the context in which we are presenting, and also the type of audience that we have. Finally, Harvard suggests or recommend a particular technique in order to face this stage, and is to describe a problem that we know that the audience has. And we will need to create a bridge between us and them. This way it will be easier for us to deliver the message that we want. It will get them ready to the next part of our presentation, that will be to present a solution to that possible problem. And it will help them to visualize the benefits of our solution and also to develop a path forward. So guys, do you think we can use this for the presentation?
Yeah, Paco, sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Paco.
Okay.
And I'm thinking that we can also use your slides to the presentation. I've been reviewing about the social media. This is very useful because apart from the slides, we can have other type of material that can be useful for the audience to capture all the attention. But I think we can work on this to make it more appealing, because Apart from this, we have like different tools that can be useful. For instance, I have made like a summary. We have some slides, some pictures, some charts that can be useful because people also, apart from paying attention to the visual part about the concepts, will be paying attention to the colors, to the graphics, and to our movements. Also, there are other type of people that will pay attention to the auditory. I mean, if we ask questions, the people will be like paying more attention, because when you are in the middle of an audience and they are asking some questions, you have to be paying attention. These are some tools can be useful in the meantime when we prepare the slides. Apart from that, we have to take in consideration the main objective about this. Because if we need to capture their attention, we'll make some slides. But if we need to show some facts, we can use graphics. For instance, we can make like a circle with some percentage and make some text in the middle of the presentation, so the people is paying more attention to this, not only about our body language, but also about the screen or the flip chart. It depends on what we are using. This is very important. The tool that we are using depends on the technology we are having and the audience we are presenting, because if we are in a remote audience, we will not use the flip chart, but maybe we will use like a slide, or we have like an online flip chart. We have different tools for presenting physically or for the online meetings. So we have to prepare this before we present it. Apart from this, we have to pay attention that there are like slides that can be shown, but they have to be very simple. There have to be like some bullet points like this, some bullet points with some key concepts, so the people don't mess up with all the information. It should be like with a logic, and also it will be like the people should know where to pay attention. If we put some color here, it's that we need to make impact on here. So these whole things that I'm mentioning can be used for any presentation.
Okay guys, so now we have already go through all the material. We have already talked about clarifying the objective, crystallizing your message, crafting the content, and working on the media.
Yeah.
We are ready to start working on the material, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
already.
Okay.
Let's do editing.
Great, great.